Well, when you literally live in the kitchen, Banipreet, you see a lot of ups and downs. And you learn to accept that you can only go down up to a point. Then on, you have to rise. And kitchen teaches you. Kitchen is a great level. And I believe in that. And it's like a game cricket. You have a good innings and you get 100, the next innings could be a zero. But you have to accept that every day is a new day, is a new beginning. And if I accept and live in the moment, what happened yesterday is gone. I am only as good as the last meal I've served.
Guys, this is the 12th episode and our last episode for 2021. What? We are ending with Ajoy Joshi. I call him Chef. He is the chef and owner of Nilgiri's restaurant based in Cremorne in Sydney. Ajoy was born in Hyderabad, India, and he has been working as a chef for over 3 decades now, celebrating all regions of India's diverse cuisine. Ajoy gave me my first job as a waiter. I had zero waitressing experience and I wanted my foot into the industry. And he gave me my first step into waiting tables, and I ended up learning a lot about my own country. In this week's episode, we talk about chef's upbringing, living in the moment, cricket analogies, and we unpack how he and his wife Meera have sustained the longevity of their restaurant, family, and community. This is our last episode of 2021, and I want to say thank you. Thank you for riding with me. What is your earliest memory of cooking?
Ooh. well, I guess it's probably when I was in year 6, year 5. I tried to make a kheer.
How did that go?
I don't know why, but I just thought I would see my mom every day cooking in the kitchen, stirring the pot, and then she would add some, those vermicelli or semia, as they say. And we were in Hyderabad, so semia kheer was big in Hyderabad. And I would see her roast the semia in ghee somewhere, and then the milk would be in another pot, and then she would add a little milk to the semia, and then she would add some dry fruits, and then comes the sugar, da da da, and then it was a beautiful bowl of what they call semia kheer, or in Hyderabad we call it something, I forget the name now, but yeah, very popular. The Hyderabadi version is slightly thicker than the northern Indian. And I would say this is interesting. The milk is liquid, this is semia over here, and the two together become like a cake, almost. Sheer korma, it's called sheer korma. That's the Hyderabadi version. So I tried making it one day. Mom was not at home, so I found all the ingredients that I thought went into it. And I didn't realize that if you leave milk on fire, literally, it overflows. So you can imagine what happened.
You experienced that firsthand.
Yeah. And the next thing was, I was more worried about mom coming back and saying, what have you done to my kitchen? So the rest of the time was spent cleaning up the kitchen. What I didn't realize was that the milk that I'd lost was a big indicator for her to know that I'd done something. I'd played around. She said, "Oh, you've done a pretty good job of cleaning, but you've lost a lot of milk." So yeah, that was my earliest memory of cooking at home.
I love that. And what made you decide to become a chef?
This is interesting because everyone in my family is and was a professional, including my mother, who was a professional teacher. It was a big time profession in India those days, Montessori teacher. Dad was in the defense. He was a metallurgist who became a scientist, joined the armed forces, defense services rather. My brother is a metallurgist. I have 2 sisters. One is a doctor and an engineer. So the obvious thing that my dad and mom expected me to do was join one of these professions. And no pressure on me, but there was pressure. It's like in India, you've got to do what parents want you to do. So
it's innately understood.
Correct. So I gave all these exams. My focus was not in any of these. I wanted to join the defense forces and especially Navy. Dad said, no, Navy is out. You have to join the Air Force. And I was not keen on Air Force. So I did this exam and I knew I was not going to get through it. And there's a lot of disappointment at home. And I wanted to play a lot of cricket, which is what every Indian child wants to do, even to this date. Then one day my dad said to me, he said, son, I know you want to play cricket. You're pretty good, but I don't have any connections. And in those days, you needed to know somebody who knows somebody to get to, you know. So I said, Dad, it's okay. I think I can make it on my own. He said, well, good luck. So I tried for nearly 3 years, pretty serious about it. I did well. Then one day my dad sat down and said to me, do you realize every year that goes by, you're missing out on what you could be doing in another field? So I said, yeah, I understand, but I'm sure somebody's going to notice me, Dad, one day. He said, just sit down, chill out. Let me tell you something. He said, there are only 11 people who can play for the country. That kind of made me think, he's right. But he said, think about it. There could be 11 million doctors or 11 million engineers or 11 million somebody else. And I said, how about 11 million cooks, Dad?
Got him.
He said, you're not thinking of that. I said, I'm not, but I just thought about it. I said, Mom cooks every day. She's a pretty good cook. I could turn that into a profession. He said, no, you're not doing that. So time went on. And a year later, I got this call from a guy who in Hyderabad in the old city. He said to me, Ajoy, was a good friend of mine. He passed away recently. He said, Ajoy, I've got to attend a wedding, a Hyderabadi nikah. And he said, they've sent two invites. My sister can't come, so would you like to join me? And I said, oh, that'll be great. He said, the Hyderabadi Muslim weddings they're beautiful. Unlike in the north, where it is all gold, in the south, especially in Hyderabad, it is all white. It's all silver. There is no gold in Hyderabadi weddings, okay? And not that I'd seen too many in the north, but I was here in Hyderabad. I'd seen a few and was really excited to go and attend the wedding. And believe you me, the wedding was somewhere else. The nikah was happening, but what got my attention or focus was this guy, this elderly man. Everyone called him Ustad. This guy sitting in a corner on a little, like a cushioned seat, and everybody else was sitting on the floor, and he was giving instructions. And there were about 12 chulas or 12 burners, literally. And there were pots on those 12 burners. And this elderly man, or Ustad as they call them, was giving instructions. And as he was giving instructions, he was slicing onions in his hand. There's no cutting board. There was a little thin knife, and he was literally slicing it, chopping it, and everything was falling in the pot. Meat, every slice was even. And I said to my friend, I said, what is this guy? He said, this guy's name is Dastar Khan. Dastar Khan is somebody who cooks for the royalty. And this was badly one of the descendants of the Nizam's somebody wedding. Beautiful wedding. But this is what I remember. This man then gets up, this Ustad, and makes the most amazing kebab in the world I've eaten to date, called Patthar Ka Gosht. I've never seen anything like this. I've been cooking now 40 odd years. Still remember this, and I wrote an article in one of the magazines in India about the lost art of cooking Patthar Ka Gosht, because the meat was actually cooked on stone. Amazing. When I came back home, I could not for a moment get this out of my head. It just went on. And then I said to my dad, I said, Dad, there's this hotel called Banjara. They're looking for people who can help them in the kitchen. I didn't say to him, they're looking for apprentices. I said, Dad, they're looking for someone who can help. And I used to go to college in the mornings, and there was nothing to do in the evening. There was cricket nets in the afternoon, and evenings were free. And Dad said reluctantly, okay, if that's what you want to do, go spend your time.
Okay, he gave up. He gave up on the talks.
He didn't really think that I was going to get into the profession anyway. He thought this guy's,
It's a phase.
Yeah, one fine day he'll wake up and say, all right, it's time to get serious about life. And so I went to Banjara Hotel, and I still remember clearly. My first chef in Banjara, 1979, 1st of December, Hyderabad, is in Sydney. And he's a good friend of mine. Okay, we still keep in touch. And he said to me what he said, and I had a ball of a time. I had a wonderful time. But what came after that was sacks of onions and garlic and ginger to be peeled, and all by hand. You have to wash them. And I said to myself, this is not what I want to do. I'm not doing this. If I want to be a chef, I want to be like the guy who's giving me instructions. Not sitting here, but I had to move up the ladder. That's when I realized that becoming a chef looks pretty good. You've got that long hat and very impressive white jacket, and you command and you're walking around and telling people what to do. Da, da, da. And I said, this is life. This is cool. So I said, I want to do this. I really want to get into this industry. Fortunately for me, Madras Catering or Chennai put an ad in the paper saying they're taking students who would like to pursue a career in catering. So reluctantly, and I have to thank my dad, because mom and dad were way too ahead of their times in their thinking. Mom and dad became a part of my story, literally, because every hotel that I worked in, my dad would come and visit me, including the Oberoi's in Delhi, Taj in Delhi, Sea Rock in Bombay. I still have wonderful memories of dad and mom. And dad had no idea that when I called them over for dinner, that it was not free. So just because I was working there did not make me invite them as guests without actually paying. So they would come to the hotel, and dad would love his gin and tonic. And he said, this is great life, this is like the army.
It takes a minute, for parents to catch on once they see how serious you are. And even back then, during that time, it was even harder. Everyone struggles with that because your parents have an idea, but you eventually understood the discipline of becoming a chef, and you learnt from several different ustads. And what did that entail to extract that knowledge?
Banipreet, like this. I always look at my profession and I compare it to cricket, because what happens in cricket happens in real life, happens in any industry. And I say this because if you play under different captains, and as a young cricketer, I played under different captains, and I learned the art of not just playing the game, but also leading people. At the end of the day, it's about leadership, right? And when I worked with these ustad, I not only learned the art of cooking, but I also learned the art of getting work done, if you know what I mean. So the ustad was an ustad, a complete ustad. And he would say, this man, and I worked under about 5 of them. Some of them would say, I'm a Khansama. Some of them would say, Khansama is the guy who cooks for the common man. Some would say, I'm a Khansama and a Dastarkhan. Dastarkhan is for the elite, classes. And I'm a chef. I'm not a cook, That's what some of them would say. I am a chef. You need to call me chef, not ustad. There's a difference. So I learned from these people what it meant to be in that position, that you can go up the ladder, you can eventually get there, but it is a lot of practice, a lot of riyaz, as they say. It is a lot of, in musical terms, you have to riyaz. You have to get up in the morning and practice, and that's what it is. He said, you can't become a chef unless you practice. And practice is not about actually showing off how to toss an omelet or an egg. Practice is about how to get your onions right, how to slice your onions, how to chop them fine, how to make sure that the dice is exactly a dice and not some are big. So all that made a lot of sense to me as I moved up, and success. Again, nothing succeeds like success, as they say. So I saw success at every stage. And that helped me understand that, wow, life is cricket and cricket is everywhere. So I look at cricket as a driving force. I look at cricket helps me guide my day. Same way in the kitchen, to be honest, it is what happens on the field happens in the kitchen. If you try and relate, I have to guide my staff, literally like putting them in positions that you would do on a field. I have to tell them what to do.
You have to orchestrate it.
You have to orchestrate it. And if things are not working right, you go and show them. And if they drop a catch, you go and stand in that position, which means if the guy can't do what you expect him to do, you are there to help him out, not to put him down, but to help him understand. That's the whole thing. But mind you, I came from the old school. And in the old school, you didn't get too many chances. So, it's my way or the highway.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's because, an ustad, a guru in India is the highest regard you could get. So when you learn and when you become a student, it's like the most it's a blessing to, you know, be taken under tutelage to actually get the discipline. And you have to be humble about it, which means, you know, trials and tribulations and testing and all of that. But you eventually, you know, in 1992, you opened Malabar in Australia with Meera. And then, you know, you sold that restaurant in 1997 and then went on a year journey to explore with Meera. Tell me, what was one wisdom that you brought back?
Okay, this is interesting. And I have to say this because when I came to Australia in 1992, and with all honesty and respect to people around, I actually came to Australia to follow cricket. And this is to be really honest with you. I wanted to watch. I thought Australia was a land that people play cricket for breakfast, brunch, lunch, and dinner. That was not the case. I thought I'd take up a little job somewhere. I'd play cricket and watch cricket, but that's not how it was. And eventually realized that summertime is the time when they play cricket. Other times it's all either rugby or rugby league or whatever. I quickly understood that I had to find a profession or stick to my profession. So I got a job in a restaurant, and then it was an Indian restaurant. And I found that everything seemed very heavy, very rich, not rich. Rich is not the right word. Rich is, in fact, what Indian food is, but everything was greasy, everything was heavy, everything tasted the same. And then I realized that everything was being made in one pot and then portioned out into other pots too. And I said, this is not Indian food. This is not the way I had learned Indian food. And everybody seemed to call it a curry. And I said, why would you call this a curry?
At this point, can we just let our viewers and listeners know you had done your tutelage in India, you had studied, and so you had plenty of years of experience. Okay, and then now you are exploring restaurants in
Correct,
Sydney.
correct.
Yeah.
And I'd worked in India. I'd worked with all these ustads, and I learned to appreciate or understand different nuances of these.
So you had an educated palate by that time.
Yes, and I thought I did, but then I come to Australia and anything that I made was a curry. Anything that I did is a curry. I said, why would you call this a curry? If you have ever been to India, we don't even know this phrase. We've never heard of this phrase. So why would you call this a curry? So no, anything that comes from that part of the world is curry. I said, I come from that part of the world, never heard of this. But anyway, moving on, I said to myself and Meera, we have to change the perception of Indian food.
Before you go ahead, I do want to tell you, you know, the parallel that I see with someone having the perception of just India having curries is the idea that somebody would ask you, do you speak Indian?
Correct.
Like there's so many things to unpack
Precisely.
in that question. But yeah, so okay, so then you spoke to Meera and you're like, we have to embark on something.
Correct. And Meera said, no, Ajoy, that's going to be a challenge. And I said, are you in it? Yes. If you're in it, I'm in it. Things may not lead to Mercedes Benz. So be it. Right. And I said, a car is a car, a house is a house. But having a profession that gives you satisfaction, and both of us have the same background. Meera is also from the industry. So it made my job that much easier in a lot of sense, a lot of ways. She would challenge me as well, but that made me well grounded, and that kept me doing what I love doing, which is work in the kitchen. So we started doing this, and the first thing we decided was Indian food is not just, no offense to anybody, Indian food is not just Punjabi food. Punjab is well respected. Punjab is one integral part of India. But then you have Kashmir, you have Rajasthan, you have Hyderabad, you have all these states. And my job is to be an ambassador in some way and showcase Indian cuisine, take people around through my food. If they can't go there physically, it must be my food. So
did you feel that responsibility early on that you had to be an ambassador?
No, but it just dawned one fine day that I need to do something about my food. I need to make people understand that Indian food ain't no damn curry in a hurry. First of all, number one. And then I had to demystify the cuisine. And it was, in a lot of ways, an education for me as much as it was for the customers luckily for me, people accepted what I did because end of the day, the bottom line is, does it taste good? Period. If it does not taste good, it doesn't matter.
You know, you came back after your travels with Meera
Mhm.
and you had a son. In 1998, you started Nilgiri's restaurant. That was in St. Leonard's at the time. Oh, no, it wasn't in St. Leonard's. Sorry, it was in
Crow's
Crow's
Nest.
Nest at the time.
Correct.
And then
Thank
you
you.
moved to St. Leonard's.
Correct.
And at that point, in a previous podcast, you did mention that you were very aware that you were running two businesses. You're the business of family and the restaurant business. And you and Meera both knew that going into it. So,
Correct.
she took on the family business and you took on the restaurant business, although I'm sure it intersects and interweaves at many points. But how was that? So what sacrifices were made in the process of running both the businesses?
Okay, like in any profession or any business, you have to make sacrifices. And what we decided was that instead of talking about the sacrifices that we make, let's talk about what the positives are. Okay, because the moment you start saying there's a sacrifice, then you go into a state of depression. I've been doing this, I'm losing on this, I'm losing out on this life. We said, let's enjoy what we are doing. My wife was very keen, Meera was keen that she was enjoying the company of her son growing up from zero to whatever it is, she was there. And I would spend my Mondays or Tuesdays whenever I was off or we were closed, and I would spend that day, with the family, with the little fellow, with my son growing up, and we would do everything. So we decided that instead of calling it sacrifice, let's call it the fun of doing things. You know what I mean? The fun of running a restaurant, the fun of running a family. And as long as it's a fun, it's enjoyment, you don't feel the stress. However, there are days when you feel, I wish I was not doing it, because raising a family is not by the books. Doing a business is not by the books. So, there are days when you things are just not working out, that you feel like you've hit the rock bottom in both sides, the family side and that's when we said, sorry, let's just take a breather, take a break, maybe not do it, just back off, whether it's a restaurant, because by then I had understood what I needed to do in the restaurant. I was committed to doing what I wanted to do, and Meera was committed to doing what she wanted to do at home. But we said we need to back off. We just can't live this day in and day out. We've got to chill out. We've got to have a time. So we decided, forget the restaurant for a day, forget the son, so let him go to wherever he wants to go play with his friends. Let's spend the time together, or let's do something else. And that really helped. Again, challenges, there are plenty. I mean, we can talk about them, but
Yeah. But I mean, what is that mindset, Because I think that, yes, there's the dream and there's the vision and there's seeing the good things. But I think that people forget to mention who you become through the stress, who you become through the grind, who you become through times where, like, I don't want to do this. So what is that mindset? And of course, it would be two together, the fact that you and Meera would be on the same page, because a restaurant business is no joke. And it's a family together trying to help each other out. Just like times where maybe you can't go on holiday for someone's wedding, very practical things that people expect you to show up for.
Yes, of course.
But they don't understand the demand and the truth behind a restaurant business. So what was your mindset getting through that?
Okay, when you speak of friends, and this is where it becomes very interesting, because when I came to Australia, I had so many people, so-called friends. As I got into the restaurant business, the so-called numbers became real. And it came down to a figure which has been with me even to this date. So I'm left with 4 families who are stuck with, and these are real friends, because if I say I'm not coming on a certain day because somebody's celebrating a birthday, they say, that's fine, we'll make it up another day. And we'll make it up twice, because you're going to spend the money and we're going to have fun. So
So you negotiate.
Right, yeah. And I realized that over a period of time, there will be people who are your acquaintances, and then there are people who are your friends. Exactly the same with the family. You have extended family, but the true family is the one who understands and stays with you. So this is how we worked out. And instead of breaking heart over it and getting disappointed, we said, this is what we are going to do. There is no way I'm going to lead this, and there's no way, Meera, you're leading that. So why bother about it? People can do and say what they want. We have to eliminate. We have to learn to, start living our lives and eliminating things around us that don't make sense, that don't really matter. And it's, again, trying to be in the zone. And it's like, again, cricket, when you're playing the ball, you play the ball, not the bowler. You don't play the fielders, you play you. And this is what our focus was. Yes, having said that, probably in hindsight, but I don't want to say in hindsight because this was a decision, a conscious decision that we took, that maybe life could have been different, but maybe life could have been worse. So there are two sides to it. So I love to live in the moment. I like to be present here and now because I can't control the past. That's gone. I have no control over the future, but I live now. I know what I need to do now. Talk to you, go back to my kitchen because the onions are caramelizing. that's the present for me. So
It was in the more than a menu podcast you mentioned, for 24 hours I've got these chefs, I've got this stuff, and that's what I'm going to focus on. You understood early on that what must go up must come down. You talked about life being like a yo-yo. And so how have you built your resilience muscle over 3 decades of being a chef?
As I said, I live in the moment. And I take this analogy or this example of having a good wine tonight. I like to drink. I love my wines. I've just completed my wine course, old world, new world. So I'm enjoying the wines that I get today that I can afford today. But I also know that if I can't afford it tomorrow, it doesn't matter. It'll probably reach a stage where today I can have a Barolo, which is the topmost, I think, in Italian wine. Tomorrow, if I can't, because of whatever happens around me, I have to accept it that nothing is here forever. Nothing is permanent. We are in transit. Everything is in motion. And when you are in motion, it will come to a stop someday. That's fine. But as a person living in the moment, I will make the most of it. And which means if I have to give, I will give. If I have to take, I will take. But I must accept that anything that I do today is a part of this entire process of start to finish. It's a thing in, we are visitors. We are after all people who are we are travelers. We are here, and in travel, you see something you enjoy and then you move on. So when you see something good, you accept it. When you see something not so good, you accept it. So that's my philosophy in life. And then that's why I don't ever compare myself to what others have or do, because what they do is what they do. What I have is what I have. So my life is very simple. And I like to think it that way, because if I start comparing myself to what you or somebody else has got, I'm going to be the most miserable person in this world. And I am not. I want to live the moment. I say to myself, here today, gone tomorrow. So be it. That's my philosophy in life. And I'll accept it. So
one part of, you staying present with every day was during COVID, and particularly when you realized you wanted to feed people during that time, and serving the frontline staff, serving customers, people who didn't have food during that time. In the first week, you had over 350 people ask for food, and in that situation, you're desperate to stay afloat during COVID. Other people are desperate to eat. But, you say that I'm taking it in. I'm not giving back, that you're getting so much. This is in the podcast, More Than a Menu, which I highly recommend. It's a 10-minute beautiful conversation. You said you have faith that your customers will return. And you mentioned how there are so many restaurants that need customers. But you said my time will come. And that really resonated with me. Where does that faith come from?
well, when you literally live in the kitchen, Banipreet, you see a lot of ups and downs, and you learn to accept that you can only go down up to a point. Then on, you have to rise. And kitchen teaches you. Kitchen is a great level, and I believe in that. And it's like a game cricket. You have a good innings and you get 100. The next innings could be a 0. But you have to accept that every day is a new day, is a new beginning. And if I accept and live in the moment, what happened yesterday is gone. I am only as good as the last meal I've served. Tomorrow is a new beginning. This is a new beginning. I live by that. I may have, and when people say to me, you've got so much experience, means nothing if I can't deliver. If you know what I mean. So everything that I do is to prove to me and not to anybody else. Everything is about myself. Everything is about my happiness. Because if I'm not happy, I cannot make anybody else happy. So I live by that. And again, going back to COVID, what you said, and there were times when I did think whether I should close it, but then I said, closure is easy. That is escapism. We spoke to our suppliers, and my suppliers have been with me for the past 18 years. They said, Ajoy, don't worry about it. You don't pay my bills for the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. Keep us informed. Let us know what's happening. And we sorted out because my relationship with them is something that's so deep. It's been 18 years with my grocery supplier. My fishmonger is again 18, 20 years. So when I have that backing, my job becomes that much easier.
Wow. And you talk about how you have a 95% return clientele. Yes. And, as a business owner, manager, and food educator, how do you create this clientele return? What do you think it was over so many years that make people come back?
My belief is that you have to be true to yourself and true to what you believe. I can keep changing my mindset every day. Is that what I want? Or my mindset says to me that I need to do this cuisine. I need to focus on this today. Maybe 3 months down the line, we go somewhere else. So I try and focus on what I'm doing now, and I try and do things and be true to myself. At the end of the day, be honest about it. When I say honest and true, I'm not saying that I'm being authentic, No, I am just being myself. I am trying to do the best I can. Food from that region, I will never say is a replica of that or is a replication of it. This is my interpretation. As long as I'm true about it, and I tell you honestly, this is my interpretation of this cuisine, people will accept it. People do not like, the word is show business. I'm not in show business. I'm in the business of art, and music, like music, food is art. And if like music, food is true to its roots, people will appreciate it. So to me, my core philosophy is be true to yourself and be happy. Enjoy the process. The moment you put stress on yourself that, am I doing this to get something out of it, you lose the plot. I am not looking at the end result because that is not in my control. What is in my control is now, the present. If I can get this right, hopefully I can, the rest will take care of itself. And I am a great believer of putting the little things right because, as they say, the big picture is about the little things. So if I can get the little things right, do I really have to worry about the big picture? I guess not. So that's my philosophy. That's the way I live. And work.
And work. If people want to start activating their culinary senses, where should they begin?
From within. There's a phrase people use, you must have passion. Passion does not come from within. Love comes from within. You really love eating because cooking is not easy, but eating is easy. Do I love eating? Oh, you bet I love it. So when people say, I eat anything when I go home, and I say to them, why would you eat anything when you cook something really good for or special for the? I will never eat anything. I eat what I give others. That is my belief because if I love eating, I love cooking. Exactly the same with music. I love listening to good music. And can I recreate good music? Unfortunately not, but he who is a good singer appreciates good music. He who is a good cook appreciates good food. My philosophy is that first, do your taste buds and all that later. Do you like eating? Most times people will say yes. Then comes the next part. Do I cook at home? A little bit. Then you move on and say, all right, can I turn this into something else? Leave that word passion aside because passion is very difficult. It doesn't happen overnight. I want him to have passion about it. That's what people say. You can't put passion into somebody. It comes out naturally. One fine day you realize, hey, that I am in it for good. I'm here to stay. So then it becomes passion. And to me, it takes time. People riyaz, people practice for years. Zakir Hussain, Ustad Allah Rakhat, they did not become Ustad from day one. The titles were given 15, 20 years down the line. That's when I really I find it interesting when people say, I'm a master chef. How do you decide you're a master chef? I've been still practicing my art. I'm still a student, and I will remain a student till the last day. And that's my belief that the moment I stop being a student, I stop being a professional. I stop enjoying myself. It is the beginning of the end for me.
In another podcast as well, I love this part. You talked about, spices being a note, a musical note, and how there's nuances in everything. And that reminded me of rags and scales, and that my head just went into, thinking about Indian classical music. But I mean, is that the case to you? You think that each spice is like a note?
I think so. I add them. I wish I could play an instrument. That's one regret I have. But then I don't, because maybe if I had played music, I may not have done cooking. So no regrets there, because I love cooking. I look at everything that musicians do, the way the fingers go on that harmonium, the sitar, the veena. I like to replicate those things when I'm cooking. I like to use, those techniques of, when you are spicing up something, it's never by the handful, but a little. And in music, the little things make those differences of, the rag going up and going down. You just have to adjust that a little bit, because at the end of the day, there are only 7 notes, aren't there?
But now you're on a journey to pair wines with Indian cuisine. And that made me confused when I heard about that, because you've always paired wines with Indian cuisine. Like when I was working for we were always recommending wines. So what's different now at Nilgiri's in Cremorne?
Nothing has changed. The only thing that may have changed, as far as I'm concerned, is that I think I have the knowledge now. And the knowledge helps with anything. You start off learning music, then you learn how to play the instrument. But the knowledge that you gain helps you believe in what you're doing. And it also makes you a stronger person, because now I can say, I won't say with authority, but I can say with a bit of guts, so that, yes, this wine does go with this. And I'm saying this because of these reasons. So the moment you have knowledge, there is a reason. It is not because I say, you say it, because there is a reason. And I today can, with some authority, I would say, recommend people. Does not mean they accept it or take it, but at least I know I've tried.
And you
With
can
the knowledge,
articulate it now more
I can,
clearly.
and with the knowledge I have. And to me, that is important, because my journey will eventually, inshallah, complete the day I do a degustation with every course going with a glass of wine that I have paired, and I can talk about that wine because of these reasons. And that knowledge is the one that I talk about now, because I'd like my staff to do that, do that talking. It may not come overnight. It's a matter of time. People will accept that wines do go with Indian food. Yes, there'll have to be adjustments made both with the wine and the food. Happy to do it. Like music, you have to make adjustments.
What are you most excited about?
Now, being here, the 2 things that are happening. I'm talking to you, and I can smell my onions caramelizing. As I said, I live in the moment.
You really do.
I do. And I know what I'm cooking after this. So, but going back to the point, what excites me is that I am looking at a new menu, and my focus is on that. It may not happen in the first month of 2022. It could be Feb or March, but I'm doing my research. The research is not about trying to, redo the whole thing. Research is about trying to take different parts of that cuisine and bring them into that part of mind where it's comfortable for me and myself, my staff, and my customers. So that's the research I do, and I do that. Then I would really like to pair a wine, if I may. But then, do I want to recommend that on the menu? No, because that seems to be a bit not me, literally. I would like to talk about it rather than put it on the menu. I would like my waiters to be in a position to say, and Ajoy recommends this wine. That word, Ajoy recommends, is the word that they should use. Why? It's what their knowledge. So that's my role now, to impart that knowledge that I've got. And I've shortlisted a couple of wines. There are wines that I think go well, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. you enjoy the wine that you want with your food. So my focus now is the new menu that's starting and some of the wines that I think go or will pair well with this food. As I said, I don't go beyond a month anymore because you never know.
You never know.
I could be in France traveling.
Chef, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks, Banipreet. Thanks for having me.
How good was that episode? Oh my goodness, that was so much fun to do. Thank you, Chef, for coming on the show and being a guest. Stay safe, everyone. I'll see you all in 2022. Bye.